All right. Happy Saturday, everybody. Welcome to Community Updates. We're going to be talking about, obviously, the Flint water crisis that's ongoing. My name is Melissa Mays. I am a Flint resident. I founded Water U Fighting For in January of 2015 in response to the ongoing, this water crisis that they were covering up and lying about. Not a lot's changed. And I'm also operations manager at Flint Rising, and I'm also a social worker in mental health here in Flint. So that aside, all those titles aside, welcome. We're going to be talking about updates. I know people have seen articles about the water crisis. I am here with Mickey Jordan, who is the producer and who owns 810 News Media Group, who has been kind enough to spend his Saturdays listening to me rant, which is amazing. You just watched previously. Hopefully, you had gotten updates from Councilwoman Tanya Burns on what's going on with City Council and everything else, and her wonderful guest. Because we do have a lot of amazing, wonderful things that do happen in Flint. And it's because of the people, the actual residents, the people who live here, who fight back, who work to support the kids in Flint, the adults, the people that are struggling in Flint, and how they bond together and give so much. But again, it's the way it is, right? The people who have the least usually give the most. And that's us here in Flint. And that's why we have not disappeared. That's why we've not, slid away, no matter how hard the city, state, and federal governments try to get us to shut up, accept, a unfinished program and accept the breadcrumbs that they've decided to toss at us. We've not gone away because we have a strong voice. We've got a history of organizing, and Flint's amazing. And we have absolutely started, this whole movement for clean water. Now, Detroit residents had been fighting against the shutoffs, and they had been fighting for water affordability for decades. And they are incredible and amazing. And we, we're also dealing with shutoffs and unaffordable water. That is still, the rates are really high. Mickey, I just got my water bill, and it said I'm using 11 units. 11 units, like that's like a swimming pool. And I don't have a swimming pool. We use bottled water for drinking, cooking, washing faces, brushing teeth for our pets and our plants. So I'm not sure where this 11 units is coming from, but ever since we got the new meter in, our usage went from like between 5 to 7 up to 11. And I'm like, well, that's great. So math obviously is not the strong point here for, this city. But all of that aside, we're here to talk about community updates, and I'm sharing it right now so that way people know what's going on. But you can always, thanks to Mickey and his channel and his news outlet here, you guys are able to go back and watch, because if anybody knows me, you all know I talk fast and I throw a lot of stuff out at you. So feel free to ask questions and yeah, so again, welcome. Happy Saturday. I'm doing all this. I'm trying not to look rude, be like, hi, I'm being rude. I'm on my phone. Like if I was at work, I'd be like, oh, I'm sorry. But
I got you.
yeah. So yeah, and we do have good things. We do have good things that are happening in Flint. It's just they're kind of buried, and it's not what, the world sees with the news and everything. So we have to remember that that we are, Flint is amazing. Okay. I just always want to say that Flint is amazing. And we're going to get started. So first update I want to give is about the class action, the damages, the money lawsuits. Okay. So they're moving slowly. They're behind schedule, as is everything else. But I received an email this past week about my youngest, about my son. So if there's information that the claims administrator needs, they're going to mail you a packet. So your attorneys that you're working with should send you a packet if you need to add more information. And you can always update your claim by adding new medical records, damages, things like that. But check, keep an eye on your email and keep an eye on your mail, because they're actually, this is basically, they're actually working on it. So if your kid maybe turned 18 or you moved or something like that, go ahead and check that out and keep an eye out in your mailbox and in your email, because apparently they are starting to look at claims, or they have been, and things are finally moving. So on that aspect, again, when are we going to get money? When are we going to find out how much we're getting? Who knows? LAN, the Lockhart Andrews, whatever, the other engineering firm, has settled in a closed settlement. Still don't know how much, but it is going into the pot. And let's remember, this grid currently, which we fought against, is mainly for kids. And so that was the state being in charge. Again, once again, when you have the responsible parties being in charge of the recovery, that's why you don't have one. But that's where this grid came into place, and they fought really hard for that and worked with some of the outside of the state attorneys to get that together. But this is for the kiddos, right? So however much it is, it's for the kids to help with getting tutors and to help with their healthcare needs and things like that. There was movement actually in the case against Veolia, which is the multi-billion-dollar uh, engineering firm that also popped in and got money to say that the water is fine. And emails came out that showed they knew about it long before any of us did, that there were lead problems and other things like that. But they were talking about how to cover it up. I actually sat in on a meeting before I even knew what was going on. And I sat next to Eric Mays. And then on the other side of me was the emergency manager, Gerald Ambrose, at the time. And who, I hadn't made a loud name for myself yet. So I was allowed to be sitting in here, and was here when Veolia did their presentation. And they were saying, well, here's how we can make the bills look more attractive. Here's how you can tell people that everything is fine. And then at that time, we had already been working with Erin Brockovich and her water expert, Bob Bocock. And he had actually come in, toured the water treatment plant, and said, these are the things that need to happen. There's no corrosion control. So again, I know media played it as something else, but it was Bob Bocock going and talking to the employees at the water treatment plant and looking at it, because he's been doing this for decades. He's been working in water quality for decades. He was director of public works in California. And he also was talking about the rates. He said he had talked to then Mayor Dane Walling and asked him, he's like, why don't you send me a breakdown of the rate? Never did. Right. So he gave his suggestions, which was to increase the ozone, which is the natural way to kill bacteria as it comes in. There's no byproducts of that or anything. It's good. And then look at the corrosion control that's missing, because we didn't even have the equipment to put corrosion control in. And this was February of 2015, by the way. So it wasn't late or anything like that. And then he said, okay, and then the rates, this. He was like, you guys are paying 8 times the national average, the highest rates in the United States, which that hasn't changed. So Veolia was in on these meetings, and they said to do the exact opposite that Bob Bocock said, and upping ferric chloride and other acids, which then added to the acid bomb that hit all of our pipes from the mains in the streets, our service lines, and interior plumbing fixtures and appliances. So, Veolia, that's what they did, and now they're trying to fight because they're a multi-billion-dollar, corporation. However, so some updates with that lawsuit, because they're also being sued for money damages, monetary damages. Them, as well as the EPA / Department of Justice, are still defendants that the lawsuits are ongoing. And they had told the judge that there was a bunch of emails because basically, let's just put it this way. Myself and a journalist, Kayla Rubel from Detroit News, had caught on that Veolia was geo-targeting, and I just happened to be in the hospital at U of M at the time that the trial was going on. They were geo-targeting Ann Arbor, which is where the jury selection was and where the trial was happening. And these ads, I had 27 on my Google home page on my phone, and they were saying things like, Veolia offered to help Flint. Veolia helped Flint and they didn't want it. Veolia tried to save Flint. So very inflammatory, even if you didn't click on the links. And so Kayla and I were going back and forth, and she talked to some experts, some legal experts, and they said that's basically what it turns out to look like now is the new form of jury tampering. It's digital. So, so they're throwing out all these dollars. And Kayla put some amazing articles, which I'll probably see if we can link into the chat later. Some amazing articles talking about how they found this out. Oh, shoot. Yeah. What's the question?
She said, how many pipes need to be replaced by August 1st, 2023?
AC, sir. Well, according to the city, so shifting lawsuits, so Veolia is still, they got in trouble. New stuff came out last Friday. So that's ongoing because they apparently lied to the judge and said 1,700 emails were, attorney-client privileged. The judge did a sampling of them, said, no, they weren't. They have to be released. So we'll see what comes out with that. Okay, so that was Judge Levy. So hopefully good things happen there. Now, that's what the damages lawsuit. So keep an eye out, watch phone, watch your mail, watch your email. Now, talking about the pipes. Let's talk about the pipes, the never-ending pipe replacement program that we started suing. We, petitioned in September 2015 and then filed in court in January of 2016, and it was settled March 28th of 2017, and all the pipes were supposed to be replaced and properties restored in 2020. It is now almost August of 2023. It's almost my birthday. Great. August 1st being the deadline that was set again because the city has violated our settlement agreement. And again, this was a settlement agreement between the federal court, the plaintiffs, which was NRDC, and ACLU of Michigan, representing all Flint residents that are impacted, which is everybody in Flint on the Flint water system. Concerned Pastors for Social Action, and myself as an impacted resident. It's very specific. A Safe Drinking Water Act case is very specific on who can file, right? So this way, everybody in Flint was covered. Nobody was left out. Nobody had, there's more. I can give more details if you would like about that. And so we sued, and it was not for money. So this lawsuit is not for money. There's no money, even though there's 97 million talk here, this money here talk, because this is an enforcement lawsuit, and this is to enforce the Safe Drinking Water Act, and we were in violation of it because the lead levels had gone up. We had no corrosion control. All kind of laws were broken, and they also found that no testing or proper safety measures were taken at the water treatment plant or in the lines before switching to the Flint River. Okay. So, and of course, that wasn't done because we were broke. It was done to get us off of Detroit, to make Detroit go broke so they could file for bankruptcy, and then the state could take over, and we would follow next. But also, we would have a privatized pipeline, the Carragandi Water Authority /KWA. That's now been renamed Genesee County Drain Commission Water because KWA has a stink on it. But that's a whole other bunch of stories about privatization and greed, which is what we are under. We're paying for the KWA and Flint water right now, as they're being blended and experimented upon and going through these corroded pipes that were supposed to be replaced 3 years ago, but finished 3 years ago. However, we gave a 6-month leeway in 2020 because of COVID. Still couldn't understand why restoration couldn't happen because that was outside. You didn't have to even go in the house for that. And COVID wasn't in the water or the soil that we knew of. So, okay, fine. But we're like, yeah, okay, everything's a mess right now. So we give them 6-month leeway. But during this time, they were also supposed to still be doing testing, and in 2020 violated again by not doing proper testing. And of course, the city and state have been caught multiple times fraudulently testing, which is why I push everybody to please go get your water tested. And so we can argue about how everything's great. Because again, the consumer confidence report that we received said that there's lead levels in residents' homes from 0 parts per billion up to 795 parts per billion. 0 being the only safe level, 15 parts per billion meaning the city has to do something. The state should intervene. There's something wrong with corrosion control. Okay, so 14, anything under 15, unless it's 0, is not safe. So just so you know. And just because you got your service line replaced, you don't know if your neighbors have. And also the mains leading up to your service line haven't been replaced, and your interior plumbing. So please do not drink the water because you had your pipe replaced. Okay, please get it tested. Please use filters. If you want to use that, please be careful and be safe because we got some issues here. Now, the ongoing forever issues of the lead service line replacement, where we're supposed to be leading the world and teaching them how to do it. Here's what we're facing. So basically, in late October, early November of last year, we had to, for the 5th time, hold the city in violation of the settlement agreement because they weren't showing reporting. They did not have the pipes finished being replaced as they promised, and they continued to pick these dates. Like they had said, oh, by August, oh, by September, we'll have this done. We'll have this. And so they were picking their own dates and then not even starting. They hadn't done, they stopped in 2020. They had done no work in 2021. Why? However, there was construction going on like Miller Road Mansions and stuff, and they were working on the blending with the KWA in our water in 2021. And then in 2022, they didn't start digging or working on the service lines until after Labor Day. And we had been meeting with them constantly, going back and forth to court, trying to get these agreements so we didn't have to drag the federal judge into it. But this is why we filed in federal court. Okay, this is why, because now the federal judge had to step in. We had to go to dad basically and say, hey, they've been promising this, and yet we gave them more time. They broke it. We settled, and they agreed to this. They signed in court. They agreed in court. They said they're going to do this date. They're going to do this, and they're going to have the reporting. So the first thing so then in February, the judge came out and said, okay, here's my new order. All inspections, meaning that they had to go back, because now the city is saying, and they're always blaming the previous administration, but this mayor is the previous administration because this is his second term. But okay. They're always saying, well, the previous administration didn't keep records. However, we have the city's own documentation that shows that records were kept all the way up till the end of 2019 when this new administration took over. However, the same city attorneys were in place, and that same director of public works who was in charge of all this was in place, and so was Rowe Engineering. So I'm not sure what, and they stayed, so nothing should have changed. However, excuses is what we get. Excuses, pointing the finger, blaming the previous administration, saying this and that and whatever, instead of actually getting the work done, instead of focusing on getting the work done. Okay, so the judge said, enough of this. You are to report, and you have to make the reports clear, and you are to do inspections, meaning you got to go back to every house that you have record of that was done, that had the excavation done to check to see if the service line was lead or galvanized steel. You need to check it, and if it's lead or galvanized steel, you need to replace it at no cost to the residents all the way up to the home, and then you got to come back and restore the property. So they were saying that was all done. Ha, ha, ha. Then we find out, oh, well, we don't have records. It's only a couple hundred, maybe a couple thousand, maybe 6,000, 10,000. Oopsie, we don't know. Even though they have the proprietary CityWorks software, which is where everything is supposedly tracked, and they said it's there, but they didn't send reports. So the judge said, enough of this. Judge Lawson is hard, but he's always said, this is what the law says, this is what you agreed to, and this is what is in the best interest of the safety of the residents. Let's get this done. So he said that all inspections needed to be done by May 1st. So they had to go back to all these homes and actually visually inspect it, take photos and take note. And then if they felt that no restoration was needed, there was a door hanger that was supposed to be put on your home. We had to fight to get that door hanger, and fight to get the reporting and fight to get this, but also had to re-clarify what done meant, what the word done and finished and restored meant, because they hung a door hanger on my door, which isn't wise when my water shutoff is sticking up and a huge, basically where a sinkhole had happened over the years, and it floods into the street and into my yard. And the street still tore up and all this stuff. And of course, I walked up and down my street. I actually took some of the local media up and down my street to show. And it's my lawsuit. Like, come on. Not that I expect special treatment, but you'd think that they would at least try to make me happier. But I do drive around and I do go talk to residents, and I get messages, photos, and stories, which is great. Keep them coming, right? Keep them coming, about people who have barrels for sidewalks. They can't use their front yard. Across the street, she doesn't have a sidewalk. She got little kids, and she can't use her yard. Her kids can't play out front because it's a big giant sinkhole and it's gravel. So that's not okay. But they're saying that everything's fine and everything's done. But also down my street, I've got folks that have never had their service line replaced. And yes, they've turned in, I've helped them, I've watched them do it, these consent forms. So basically May 1st came, the city did not have everything finished. They did not do what they were supposed to do. And there was no reason for it. There was no good reason for it. It's just they didn't do it. So we had a town hall in March of this year, and one of the residents asked, where's the teeth? Now, that's the thing about legislation and laws. If it's not built with teeth, what are we going to do? However, the attorneys at the Natural Resources Defense Council, who have stuck with us since 2015, believed us, fought on our side, same with ACLU of Michigan, found that they could hold the mayor and the city administration, who are in charge since we're not under emergency management anymore, hold them in contempt. Now, so could the state and the EPA. They're also parties to this lawsuit, and they're letting the city just do nothing. And they're like, oh, well, that's fine. Even though with the previous administration, it was not that way at all. They would rip former Mayor Dr. Karen Weaver up and down and say that she was picking the houses, this. And I mean, no, it was just anything that the city didn't do right at the time. And that, at the beginning, there's some leeway there because this is a learning process. We were the first city to do this. This mayor came into something that was already a program that was already up and rolling and had like 27,000 holes dug out of, I think, 32,000 total, maybe.
90%.
He just kept saying 90%. And yet he's been mayor since 2019. Yeah. And again, I'm no mathematician.
No,
But
I was told, I ain't gonna put the person name out. This is the hardest 10% being done. This is what his supporters. I'm not trying to be funny. This is down at council. Told me
this is the hardest 10%.
But in the same breath told me the water is fixed.
Okay. So first of all, let's go. Okay, Mickey, did you have your mic on so everybody can hear you? Okay, because this is what you said was important. We have people that are in a leadership position that are saying that the water is fine and fixed. So, can this person scientifically explain to me how a blended, fluctuating, unstable water experiment going through corroded, rupturing, collapsing distribution mains in the streets, connecting to service lines that have not all been replaced and that are corroded, but going into the homes that interior plumbing fixtures, like all the faucets and spigots and appliances such as water heaters, dishwashers, washing machines, all that stuff, have not been replaced. So how can you put, even, let's just take the experimentation out of it, the expensive that we're paying for, take that out of it. If you're putting the most precious, wonderful water on Earth through corroded, rupturing pipes, how is that safe? How is that fixed? So can somebody just explain this to me on a common sense level? On a common sense level. If you have water going through bad pipes that are corroded, rupturing, letting, important treatment chemicals out, and God knows what's in the soil back in, it's not okay. That's just common sense. And if you want, you can talk to the Plumbers Union because they have been amazing through all of this. They have been incredible because they're just like, no, that's ridiculous. That there's no way, because clean water going through gross, corroded pipes that can trap and release contaminants such as bacteria, metals, causing disinfection byproducts to happen, which are cancer causing. How is that okay? Also, I would like to invite whoever wants to go out there and say that the water's fine, come to my house. Or I'll just bring you some of my tap water. Happily, unfiltered, fresh for you. Okay? It smells. My water smells. My water changes. My water breaks my hands and my back out in rashes when I take a shower. My water stinks. And I'm not going to taste it because no thank you. My clothes stink. And we have filters. We do all of these things. Forget, yeah. Bring me the facts. And that's where we're going with this, because AC had asked about how many pipes need to replace, because yes, I don't know if people saw an MLive article that went out saying Mayor Neely said that everything's all done. Okay, well, the burden of proof is on you, sir. Because so far, you've been saying it's done or almost done for 3 years, and it's not. And yes, stuff is happening now, but that's because after the city violated the judge's orders, where the judge said, May 1st, you need to have all the inspections done to see how many homes still need to be restored. August 1st, all of the excavations and replacements need to be finished. They already violated the May 1st deadline to have the inspections done. So then we found, the attorneys, I can't take credit for this, they're amazing, found a way that you can hold them in contempt of court. Now, we filed to ask the judge to hold the city and the mayor in contempt of court. So the fines, the $500 a day fine, which again, the judge is going to decide. And there was also this $900,000 attorney's fees amount that keeps being put in these articles, but that's based on what? We don't know what that number is. The judge will decide. The judge decides that. And and it's also a going forward. Yeah, because he said something in the article about $500 a day, and then the attorney's fees, which the attorneys have not received attorney's fees since 2017. So all of this has been out of pocket for them. All of these times we go into court against, them many, many times, and dealing with this, and then, dealing with this reports and babysitting, basically, the attorneys have received nothing. Okay, so then they're like, fine, if you want to mess around and you don't want to do what the judge ordered, then you should be held in contempt because you're violating the judge's orders. And because we have to keep fighting this, then you should have to pay attorney's fees for once. because the state paid the $895,000. This was in 2017. The attorneys, the ACLU and NRDC, had turned in receipts for $2.4 million in attorneys' fees had cost, and the judge awarded them $895,000 that the state would have to pay, which they took forever to pay. And it wasn't towards me or the pastors or anybody else. It was for attorneys' fees. It had to be receipted. That's how that works. I'm not an attorney. I don't even play one on TV. I just sound like one, and because I've been sitting through court enough with all these cases. But it went to, recoup some of those expenses. But then since then, and we've been going to court, the millions that has been spent, the multiple times holding in violation, 5 times, plus the stipulations in between, the court, the NRDC and ACLU of Michigan have received nothing. And of course, I don't get anything. The pastors don't get anything. I don't even get my parking paid for or time off paid, when I go to court. So, yeah, we're in the hole for this. But we do it because it's what's right? It's not even about the money for those of us who are fighting for what's right. It's not about the money. So there's like, okay, then pay us attorney's fees. Now, again, do we want the city to pay $500 a day? Because it's going to come out of our. I mean, yeah, and and it's moving forward. Do we want them to pay this? No. Do we want them to pay the attorney's fees? No. But we thought if we threw this out there, then maybe the city and this mayor would finally take the lawsuit seriously. And not just the lawsuit, but the safety of the Flint residents and all the promises to move Flint forward and get this fixed and blah, blah, blah. All the promises, we're going to get it done. Actually take it seriously. So we were hoping that we'd do that. Now, it actually did spur a lot of work to get done. There's actually digging. There was actually, work orders put in. However, the reporting, the numbers don't match. And so I can't say anything with any kind of certainty. Do I think personally that all the pipes are replaced? No. And here's why. I just got more people emailing me, texting me. We have on Flint Rising's Facebook page, we have a survey that asks people, have you had your service line replaced? And if so, have you had your property restored? And there's a bunch of questions, but we're doing this so we can gather this information, and we're still getting responses from people. I'm still getting people texting me saying, hey. And also, I'm just watching down the street at my neighbors. I'm like, no holes yet. So, no. And let me just say, what's happening is that it looks like the city is trying to blame the residents, as per usual. This is nothing new, right? Like, this was on us. They tried to say we ate paint chips. They tried to say we didn't know how to bathe. That's why we had bacterial infections. They're trying to say this and this and this. And this is, like I said, this is day 3,382 of the Flint water crisis. So we're used to this. But what they're trying to say and what they're talking about, rumors going around that they're trying to have an ordinance put in to where residents who don't sign the consent forms and allow the work to be done, we're going to be either fined and or jail time. Jail time. The city and state and federal government and the engineering firms did this to us in Flint. We are I always say we're not victims, we're fighters, but we were victimized. They made the decisions to switch our water source, to not treat our water, to lie and cover it up as people are dying. Okay? So now they're going to blame it on us saying, oh, well. But what we've been asking and what we put into the settlement, what's the outreach? Because we did have CORE. I don't know if everybody remembers the CORE workers. That was from the lawsuit, to make sure they go door to door, to make sure everybody's got filters, to make sure they know how to use them, how to replace them, and to make sure that people are testing the water and signing the consent forms to allow the city, so the contractors, so not the city itself, because my goodness, but the contractors to come in and check your service line. And they need to go to the basement or wherever your water meter is to make sure there's not a partial service line replacement. They don't care what you got in your basement, unless it's probably bodies. That's probably a bad thing. Maybe don't do that, but let them in, let them check it. And then they replace the line at no cost to you. They're supposed to flush the lines and you're supposed to get a filter. And I would always recommend getting your water tested before and after. Okay. Because if there's lead lines left in, lead and galvanized steel left, every time we have a main break, which is a constant, apparently last Friday or whatever, this past Friday, there's another main break over by Starlight and the Davidson Road was flooded, but I didn't see anything from the city go out, so, I mean, they don't let us know on that emergency line that I'm signed up for. So that's great. I mean, I got the emergency note that City Hall was closing early for a storm we didn't really get, but okay, fine. But nothing about the main break. So that's, of course, typical. Now, it is the city's job to reach out to you, to knock on your door, to ask you to sign this little short consent form, to let them go in and do the work. What they were trying to say is that people were declining or not responding. But then when we went to the addresses, we were finding out nobody had ever reached out. So if the city was done, why is there talk about an ordinance that if people don't, sign the consent form, then they're going to be fined and or jail time, because they tried that in Newark, and they tried that in Benton Harbor, and we were on the case over there too, and we put a shutdown to that. We stopped that right there. And so it's the same thing. Like, if you didn't get and it's ridiculous because they forced their way into our homes for the water meter change, or people would get their water shut off. But they're not going to do the same for the service lines if it's so important. But also, why is this even necessary or even talked about if they're done? Which, again, in my personal opinion, we'll see what happens with the court and what the judge says, and what happens August 1st, which is the deadline to have them all done. Yeah, it's Tuesday. That's Tuesday. Coming up Tuesday, baby. Tuesday. Now, for those of you who have not, or folks who have not had their service line replaced, there is the website is cityoflint.com/get #the #lead out. And I'll post this in the chat and everything. Get the lead out. You can go there and get your consent form. If you can't get one, you can go ask City Hall. You can have print it off. At this point, I would send an email if you can't. Or if you already have, make sure you make copies, because a lot of people already have and have not heard anything. So make sure you save copies. And then what you're going to do is you're going to email get the lead out, all one word, at cityoflint.com, and also copy that email to Flint Pipe Replacement. And I'll put this in the chat so you guys can copy and go with it. Flint Pipe Replacement at gmail.com. That goes to the NRDC, our attorneys who are tracking this. If your service line has not been inspected, has not been replaced, and none of the work has been done there, or if it has not been restored, you need to send that email off. Say, hey, this is so-and-so at this address. Here's my phone number. I consent. Whatever you need to do is say, I need somebody out there. Because when they came to my house to do mine, they actually had the consent form with them that you could sign right then and there. So they're acting like it's a big hurdle, but it is not. They're putting, again, the burden on the residents and the blame on the residents, like they have since the beginning, okay? So what we need is for everybody to look out for one another and share out to your networks that if they have not had their service line replaced or restoration done, please speak out. We need to gather this information, and you need to email Flint Pipe Removal at gmail.com. Reach out to the NRDC and tell them. Or go to Flint Rising's Facebook page. It should be pinned at the top. It should be at one of the top posts, asking Flint residents, have you had your service line replaced and your property restored? If not, please fill this survey out, because that information will go to the attorneys. We're collecting it because we're going to want to hear from you, because here's the thing. Nobody should be left out. They're trying to act like there's a handful. We don't know how many. So go back to your question, AC. We don't know how many still need to be replaced. They're throwing out these numbers, but we're like, where did you get those numbers? Because they don't match the numbers we're hearing, and people are still reaching out every day saying nobody's responded from the city. And you can also call the city and /Rowe Engineering at 810-410-1133. But please, if you can have somebody else record that phone call as proof to show date and time that you called and nobody answered or nobody's called you back, please do so. Because not one single line should be left. Because if there is a line left that has, even if it's going to a house where the water shut off, every time that there's a main break or something nearby, it causes like a backflow. It causes like a backwash. So it switches how the water moves, and it will suck out whatever nasty is sitting in that pipe. So nobody should be left out. And you should not be left with a lead or galvanized steel service line, because for the past 3,382 days, we have been fighting and living in the Flint water crisis with bad water. And again, lead, just remember, lead is not the only or the deadliest contaminant in our water. We have the, cancer-causing disinfection byproducts from crumbling infrastructure. And we have a cancer cluster going on right now. There's a lot of us personally have been touched by cancer, which, and weird, but also there's bacteria. It's hot right now. The pressure's low because they shut off the water tower. They're not keeping they can't keep a consistent chlorine level when there's mains rupturing and leaking and everything. So bacteria can run rampant. Bacteria that feeds off of iron corrosion, copper corrosion, all those disgusting things that are happening in our unreplaced infrastructure, from the distribution mains to the service lines to the interior plumbing, water heaters, fixtures, faucets, all of that. So, long answer. Whoever's saying out there that the water is fixed, let's have a talk. Let's have a talk. And we can bring the plumbers in on this if you'd like, but let's have a conversation. Come say it to my face. If I need to come to city council again and have another headache, I will. Because it's not true. You're lying to people. There's no way you can actually prove, because what are you testing for? Are you even testing? So going back to the testing, because the lawsuit's still ongoing, the Safe Drinking Water Act case is still ongoing, lead and copper tests can be picked up from City Hall Monday through Friday, supposedly 9 to 4, or you can call the Flint Public Health Navigators to get replacement cartridges for your filters, pitcher filters, but also test kits dropped off and picked up if you don't have transportation, or if there's, time issues, if you work and things like that during those times. And you need to call 810-410-2020. And that is to reach the Flint Public Health Navigators. And again, I would absolutely record these phone calls so you have proof, because I've called and asked for, clients to have, and consumers to have their pipes, or their pipes replaced, but also their filters and test kits delivered, and nobody responded to me ever. I mean, I get it. I'm a pleasant person, Mickey. I can be a pleasant person. Unless you're lying and you're harming people, because then we're gonna have a problem.
I get it. 'Cause I'm looking what Art just put in. They said in communicating meeting that it was 72 lines on July 13th, 2023. It's like, what I don't get is that how they, from the state level, how y'all just allowing this lying.
So that's important. That's an important piece, and we have to remember that the reason this mayor is allowed to sit back, and this administration is allowed to sit back and basically do nothing and let everything fall apart, is because the state, who again was in control of Flint, and it's going to control the budgetary issues. That also is a state problem. It's a state created problem, and it's a state allowed problem. We had prior to 2020, we had a budget surplus. And also with the COVID money and the ARPA funds, why do we have a deficit? Where's that money going? Because it certainly hasn't been going to fixing the water.
The deficit?
Yeah, why is there a deficit? Where's the money gone?
To cover that budget that they keep passing without looking.
Yeah. Also, that's got to stop too. So residents, yes, they, my Flint folk, yes, they are blaming us. Yes, they are putting the burden of responsibility on us to get our pipes replaced. Yes, they're saying it's on us. And they're talking about, oh, hey, well, why don't we just impose fines and jail time if you don't, send the consent form in? But you're like, people have, you guys aren't responding. So why don't you have fines and jail time? But again, that's these ordinances, and people don't realize that they're doing this to blame the residents. So knock it off. Yes, we need everybody to have their pipes replaced, okay? We can't leave any lead in the ground, because it can impact everybody, not just the people who live in that home. And honestly, when I talk to people, I'm like, why wouldn't you want the state to pay for this? Because again, the state, not the city, the state pays for this. Why wouldn't you want the state to pay a little bit to get your pipes replaced, make the value of your home better, make things, make your yard, get your yard fixed, get all this stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like it's owed to you. It is owed to you. So get what is owed to you and get your pipe replaced and get this. However, that's not what we're seeing. As for people declining, it's people that's never been contacted before, people that's never been reached out to, people that have no idea, people who were buying homes and then saying, hey, I just heard the water's bad. Has my pipe been replaced? I don't know. I'm like, good Lord. Because people are moving in and they have no idea, because nobody in this administration is telling them. They're telling them, and the mayor said right in front of me, which blew me away, that the water's fine. You can use a filter if it makes you more comfortable. No, you need to use a filter because there's still metals floating around in there. And there's still total methanes. Now, the bacteria is a different issue because you need to boil the water. You need to filter and then boil. But he's lying, okay? That's just what it is. He's lying because he has no way of knowing for scientific certainty that the water is safe for every single person in every single home, because our water system is unstable thanks to them experimenting on it and allowing this corroded infrastructure to rot and fall apart. Okay? Just sitting back and allowing. And this is on the state too, and the EPA, because they've been sitting here just letting them do their thing and trying to slide up on out of here like, not my responsibility, but yet they're not doing anything, even though this city and this mayor and this administration is making the state look awful. But hey, I guess y'all don't have political aspirations, or they're going to be like, hey, here's something shiny over here. So we don't know The mayor doesn't know because you know what? There's still people out there that haven't even been told. And we should not leave one single person behind.
And you got a question from the YouTube
Sure.
side. It says Zachary Harris. How can a person buying a house in Flint not know the water situation?
Because they're not told. You know how they had to fight for this though. There's a notice that they give you that if you have lead paint in your home. We've been fighting to get that for lead lines, for lead and galvanized steel service lines, that there's lead in your water. Because again, I'm not going to buy a house, start chewing on the walls. But I mean, lead paint is an issue, but we have lead safe homes to get that taken care of.
Right.
But the pipes, yeah, they need to notify you. But there should be something on record, on the property, the parcel's record that says the line was replaced. Hooray. And it's this material. But then we're finding out people aren't even being notified. Like across the board. Like they're not even being notified. So again, where are the mayors getting these numbers and why people are being, it's because the less we talk about it, the better it seems on a PR standpoint, like it's all over. And that's what they want. People just to drink your bad water and just take the little bits and pieces that we gave you, even though we did this to you. We think you deserve this. Well, I believe, and I know, and the attorneys agree, that we deserve to be fixed and fixed right. We deserve to do like what we told our children and what our parents told us. If you break it, you fix it, you buy it. And yet we have these people in this administration that have been voted in city council who are not representing their people, who are telling them that it's okay, and having people say, no, the water's fine because it's been this many years, or because some service lines have been replaced. Well, first of all, even when all the service lines get replaced, and we have to fight for that, we still got to fight for the distribution mains leading up, because a service line is just a clean straw. It is an important piece. By all means, it needs to be done. Okay? It is an important piece of the puzzle, but we need to fight for distribution mains and interior plumbing. So you need to push and fight. There's ARPA funds going to the most ridiculous things. Okay? And then like this ARPA mess about them trying to decide the budget without listening to us. Are you kidding me? The reason they got elected was to listen to us and to, fight for what we want, not what they want, not what this mayor wants, not what the state wants. And when you hear these same talking points, it's like people who, those people that are political zombies, right? They continue to just regurgitate what they heard on the news. Oh, well, this is this. And, COVID's just a flu, or this person's laptop. Who cares? They're all bad, by the way, as politicians. There you go. When the conversation should be, and what's infuriating to me, Mickey, is that former Governor Snyder lied in front of Congress, perjured himself about when he knew about the Legionnaires, and it was proven. And then, unfortunately, Congressman Elijah Cummings, who was spearheading that, died. So why are we talking about like impeaching anybody, which is important? Hey, you mess up, you should do this. But like we're a city of like 80 to 100,000 because the number fluctuates. And they did this to us. The proof is out there. Even though the criminal cases got, just absolutely annihilated. I mean, on purpose, because you couldn't mess this up. Like I could go in and do a better job, and I'm not even an attorney. But okay, I respect constitutional rights and protections, even for the people that did this to us. But just because there's not criminal cases doesn't mean there's not crimes happening. Okay? And when we sit back and we become complacent because we're tired, we're all over it. We're done, right? And this is what we're working with folks in, that we did in Benton Harbor, and Milwaukee folks still fighting, and East Palestine, Ohio. You can't give up because you have been wronged. You wouldn't do this to somebody else and allow this to stand. So you have to fight. And yes, it's exhausting. I didn't want this for my life. I'm sure nobody else out there wanted this for their life. I had a cool life-ish. It was stressful, but it was good. But this is wrong. At the end of the day, this is wrong. The water is wrong. The pipes are wrong. This mayor is wrong. The city administration is wrong. The state is wrong. And the EPA are wrong. Okay, that seems like a lot, right? That's a huge, mountain of wrong. And we're just these people. However, we're a lot of people. We have a lot of neighbors. We have a lot of people that know this is wrong. So we have to provide an outlet and a way for them to speak out. So again, going back to, if you know somebody who's not had their line replaced or their yard restored, please reach out to me. Please go to the Flint Rising Facebook page and fill out that survey. Please, we need to stand together and we need to stand up for one another. And I say this all the time, but it's important because that mountain of bad and corruption that we have to fight against becomes a little easier to scale when there's 10 of us, 20 of us, 100 of us, 1,000, 10,000. because we all deserve better. And it doesn't matter what our political affiliation is. I don't like any of them. I don't like either party. In my mind, the Republicans did this to us, and the Democrats let it happen and are allowing it to still happen, and the Republicans are okay with it. So, because green money is what's ruling here, we mean more than that. Okay, we're not just valued at how much we have in our bank accounts. We're human beings. This is not a political issue; it's a human issue, and it's criminal what's happening to us. So, you need to go recall some folks that are sitting on city council that ain't doing nothing. All right, this is ridiculous. But also, get in their faces politely, however you want to do it, and tell them that they're not representing you, that your pipes still aren't changed, your yard still is not restored, and why aren't they fighting for that? And why in the world do you get to pass a budget without discussion, without us being in it? Why do you get to decide where my money goes? I don't think so. I don't know you, and from what I've seen, you don't know what you're doing. And you ain't listening to the people. So again, going back to what Reverend Jesse Jackson told me about what he learned with working with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. If the poor and what's left of the middle class unite across all of these created divides and barriers across race, gender, location, economics, class, all of these things, if we unite against the things that are put in place to divide us, we can take our country and make it work for us. We can take our government. And I'm not talking about running up on a building and wiping poo on the walls. That's just immature and embarrassing. That's ridiculous. No, but our voices and our power united. And that all of us across the board, it doesn't matter what you look like, who you love, where you live. If you're in Flint, the water impacted you, whether you want to believe it or not. And if you live in these other poison cities, it's happening to you too. It just came out 1 in 5 New York residents. Yeah, drinking. But again, remember, we brought that out, everybody. We did this. And yes, it's bad news for New York, but you know what bad news can do? Spur change. That can make change happen. So, you got a council person, you got a state rep, you got a state senator, you got a congressperson you don't think's working for you? You pay their salaries, okay? They work for you. It's their job. So you need to have a little conversation, write an email, get a block club together, get some neighborhood together. We will help. I mean, the director of Flint Rising, Naira Sharif, has been doing community organizing for a very long time, for decades. The wisdom, and Naira is going to be on with me. We're going to be doing some shows about environmental justice as well, and the air quality in Ajax and all the mess that's happening with that. When you get complacent and let things happen, people die, okay? When water is treated like a commodity, which it is right now, people die. But we're better than this, and we can do better, and we have done better.
And there's a question here. The question is, if the water is safe, can you stop putting extra chemicals in the water? If the water is fixed, can you take the filter off?
So if the water was safe, they wouldn't need to be putting the extra chemicals in, okay? There's nothing that we can put in on our end that's going to make it better, because the problem is corroded infrastructure, okay? Putting additional chemicals in is just going to create a bigger problem. Is going to create more byproducts, more chemical reactions, more carcinogens to be released. The way to fix the Flint water crisis is to replace everything the bad water has gone through and destroyed, which means the distribution mains, the service lines, the interior plumbing, fixtures, and appliances, all the way up to all your taps, okay? Because the water came through, it was corrosive, it was like an acid and ate everything. So no amount of chemicals are going to fix this. They tried. They put 4 times the orthophosphates, which is supposed to be it's a way to coat the pipes to protect the pipes from the water and the water from the pipes to try to protect us. However, it's a way to control corrosion control. Well, it's too late when your lead lines have Swiss cheese. You can't coat holes. And galvanized steel pipes and cast iron, when they corrode, they don't get smooth, they don't get Swiss cheese, they get rocky on the inside, real chunky. And there's no way to properly, completely, coat this. You can't take a paint roller and paint over a rocky, chunky mess that is the inside of our distribution mains and our valves, and inside our homes, all of that stuff. So the chemicals are just going to go through and cause issues. And also, if there's excess orthophosphates, it can feed bacteria as well. So it doesn't stick. Also, for that chemical to stick and adhere to the pipe, it needs to have a steady pH. That means it has to be like 7.2 pH. And it works in a lab under, like specific circumstances. But when you have construction, rupturing mains, all this other mess going on, there's no way to keep a pH. That's why our water smells different from one day to the next, because it's not safe. It's not okay as long as we have unstable pipes and infrastructure, corroded infrastructure, all the way up to our service lines and our taps in our homes, our water heaters, dishwashers, anything that's touching our water. As long as it's not been replaced with proper safe equipment, no amount of chemicals is going to change that. It's going to make it worse. And please use your filters if you're using filtered water, please, because at least it can reduce. Now, remind you, it doesn't do everything. These tap filters were not made to save lives and protect us. They were made for aesthetics. So for people who have wells, to take out the orange red from iron corrosion, for people who don't like the extra chlorine smell, to reduce that. They were not meant for this. And they're only rated up to 150 parts per billion. And like I said, the Consumer Confidence Report for the water quality came out and said people had 795 parts per billion in their homes. And there's people that over 3,000 parts per billion. So what happens at 150? Boom. And again, you need to make the decision that's best for you. I'm big on not letting a politician tell me what to do about my health, especially if they don't have any expertise, and especially if they're lying to me to make me go away. You know what's best for you and your family. You can smell this water. You can feel it. And yeah, it might be clear because mine's been clear, except for it was yellow the other day, and that's gross. But remember that lead and disinfection byproducts and a lot of these other contaminants have no color. Many have no taste or odor. So just because you're looking at it, say, looks okay to me, please, until all the construction is finished, until everything is replaced, please use a filter. Please take safety steps, please.
I got a question for you.
Sure.
Where's the state rep and the mayor at on this?
Married?
Oh, okay. Because I'm wondering, because I also seen that, because I'm just looking at the questions when they study said, like, because what you said is something interesting. They're going to put it on the people.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And it's like, I'm looking at the different comments. People want to keep asking. It's like they don't want this mayor, this voting block he got, this state rep, because Lord forbid they just did the Michigan budget.
Yeah.
She wasn't there for the infrastructure bill, but yet people keep voting this type of, and I have nothing against her personally. I'm just saying politically.
Right.
They keep voting these people in. Then you got they bad people that's backing them, they supporters, and they act like they don't see none. What you just said, you already said, because they got their supporters saying the water clean, the water is good.
Show me your independent tests.
Right. And then you got to 10%. This is the hardest 10%. I don't know.
There's no way this is the hardest part was at the very beginning where we did not know where to start. Okay. The hardest part was trying to figure out how to make the lead service line identification and excavation replacement restoration program work. Because one, we didn't have records. Like my service line, it just said NA. They didn't know, so that was the hardest part, getting this ball rolling. But once we had the machine up and going, as long as you're listening to people and focused on the people, it's not the hardest 10%. I do not see ads going out like they should about getting your pipe replaced. I see ads and billboards about lead paint. I was getting gas 2 days ago, and there was a thing that came on Speedway talking about lead in the homes, and it was talking about all the different ways, lead, soil, paint, and then it said, and even drinking water last. And that was from the state. As much as that made me go, ugh, at least it was something. Because what's our city doing? What's our city doing? What is our city doing? What is our city? And again, you can be friends with these people, but the minute they step into the job and they're not doing the right job, the friends need to sit aside. Like, look, I can go out and hang out with my cardiologist, but the minute he starts giving me wrong advice about my heart monitor and wrong stuff like that, no, you ain't doing your job. We ain't cool. We can be cool outside if you want, but no, see, because here's the thing. What's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. When you're lying to the people, when you're misdirecting the people, knowing that people can get Legionnaires and die, knowing that people can get lead poisoning, let me tell you something that's happened. People are getting their kids screened and getting their, the NCE assessments. There's cognitive assessments that Mott Children's is doing. There's other things, other doctors that are doing these neuropsychological testing. The next person who wants to come talk to me and tell me the water's fine. One, you're going to drink it straight from the unfiltered, just deliciousness. But then you're going to tell me that my kid's okay when I have a piece of paper from a team of neuropsychologists pediatricians that say, rheumatologists and all that say, my sons have cognitive impairment because of this water.
And this is from, and these are what
these are actual doctors and experts.
And these are what the mayor supporters, including himself, are trying to say. This is the misinformation. This showed me. That's why when they be saying they go to church, when you can see I don't know what church would let a mayor, a state rep, or even these council
somebody's
people,
afraid of losing funding.
Right, and that's the truth. And these council people, even these activists, y'all can sit up here and uphold, and you see the death and killing that's going on, and saying it's not from the water, the pipe's not bad, Flint got the best water. And we're gonna see the person at council if you be there Monday, and I'm gonna introduce you to him.
Please do.
To the person that told me that this was the hardest 10%.
Hardest 10%.
And that the water is the most tested and is good water.
Okay, let me just tell you this. The water being the most tested, first of all, it's because of our lawsuit. We're forcing them to comply with the Safe Drinking Water Act case. Again, I'm not talking about the money case. There was no money awarded except for the $895,000 in attorney's fees that went to the NRDC and ACLU out of the $2.4 million they'd spent. And that was 2017. They ain't got a penny since then. Okay. And they've been fighting still. And people who want to say, well, Melissa Mays and the Concerned Pastors got money and they didn't. No. I'm out money. I got a screw in my tire the last time I went to court. I miss work and I don't get paid. I don't get my parking reimbursed to go down to court or to take time out to do all these hearings and to do all these meetings and to go back and forth, to go to city in the mayor's office, to go sit and have these meetings, and to sit here and, as much as I adore you, Mickey, I love spending time with you, to tell people, no, it's not okay. We still fighting. We've been doing this since 2015. So people want to talk, and say, oh, it's just them wanting to stir up trouble. Really? Well, I don't see what you're doing to help anybody. You want to talk trash? Let's go. You want to tell me the water's okay? Prove it to me. Why don't you show me your independent testing results? And not just for lead and copper, by the way. Let's talk about bacteria. Let's talk about disinfection byproducts. You prove to me the burden of proof for somebody who wants to say it's safe. The burden of proof is on you. You want to say the pipes are done? Prove it to me. Show me nobody in this city that's asking for their pipe to be replaced. The thing is they expected us and the thing is I've been attacked so many times, but here's the thing. I do not care. It means literally nothing to me. At first, oh my God, my feelings were hurt because I have a heart, right? And my feelings were hurt. I'm like, no, I'm just trying to help. But now I don't care because I don't see anybody else going to court with us. I don't see anybody else fighting against the city. I see everybody else giving up, moving away, doing whatever. And you can do that. That is your choice. But it is my choice to sit here and stay and fight. And I can tell you where to go if you want to sit here and be like, oh, they're just doing this for attention. Really? Because how many people sitting there showing you their rashes? They're people that are dying. The piece of paper that you got from your kid's evaluation showing that your child has been negatively impacted by the water, or your own medical records that say you have this because this was done to you. So you want to talk about, oh, Melissa and the Concerned Pastors who got nothing from this. If we didn't do this, nothing would be getting done. And yes, it's still going on, but here's the point. We're still here. We're still here and fighting because it's what's right. We're still here out of pocket, volunteering, I guess, because it's not done right. And we know, we believe, and we are standing firm. The Natural Resources Defense Council, ACLU of Michigan, Concerned Pastors, Melissa Mays, and all the residents who have put in their depositions or declarations, all of these statements, and who have gone to their neighbors to get pictures and to get their information. We know it's not right. We know it's not okay. And I can tell you that it's not right, it's not okay, because the pipes are still in the ground. The pipes have not been replaced. The holes are still in the yard, and people are still suffering. People are still paying the highest rates in the United States for water that they're being lied to about. And so, yeah, they can be like, Melissa Mays, this. She wants attention. No, I'm tired. I'm old, and I'd like to get my life back, but I ain't going nowhere because I was taught right is right and wrong is wrong. And you do what you need to do to protect your family and the ones you care about and your community. And that's what I'm doing. So anybody who wants to question me, come talk to me. Because here's the thing. I mean, I work 2 jobs and I'm busy and I'm tired and I'm sick and all blah, 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 blah. But we have a conversation. We can have a face-to-face. Let's do that. You want to tell me that everything's fine and this is the hardest 10%? No, it's because nothing was done. Nothing was done. It stopped in 2020. Nothing was done in 2021 for no reason. And then nothing was done until Labor Day when we had to file in court again to hold them in violation again. Nothing was done. And then nothing was done again, even after the judge said the inspections that are supposed to be properly done need to be done by May 1st. And so that is why we're holding them in contempt, because if we don't file these things, if we don't file in contempt, and we don't have these threats and we don't get the judge's attention to say, hey, this is still bad, it's just going to go away. And it's never going to get done. And we're going to be stuck with these contaminated lines and these holes in our yard and streets and sidewalks forever.
Or having fireworks in August.
Yeah, about the air quality. How come we didn't get an alert about the air quality? But let's go blow some stuff up in the air. Now, I like fireworks, I do, but we're still going through the air quality, the bad polluted air.
The 4th of July was 3 weeks ago, but
Right.
you having
I hit it. Sorry.
Fireworks?
Mhm.
What are we celebrating?
What are we celebrating? Do we have independence? Do we have freedom? Do we have clean water? Do we have affordable, anything? Affordable housing? Do we still have homeless? Yes. Do we still have homeless veterans? We sure do. Do we still have a mental health crisis that's underfunded? Yes, we do, because we live in a community that's been traumatized over and over and over again. Do we have these elected officials getting a nice fat paycheck and being all sitting up there being, happy and fat and all that stuff while doing nothing for their people? Yeah, we still do. Do we have a Supreme Court that's telling me what I can and can't do with my body? Yeah, we still do. So I don't see us having any more independence than we did back with, England. So there's still people in robes telling us what to do. There's still people in positions of power that are saying, drink your poison, pay the bill, and shut up. And also, don't go get health care. Don't go, if you're having a miscarriage. Oh, well, you can't, you don't have a say over your body. And so by putting these people in place, and people need to see it happening. And it's funny because in 2015, I'm like, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. No way that would the government poison us on purpose. And then I met Tony Palladino and I listened and I'm like, oh my God. And then we researched and then we fought side by side. And I miss that man and I miss the people, but we got to go back to it and it's fine. We're going to do it in Tony's honor because it would be a dishonor to allow this to go away and people are still suffering and dying, whether it be quick death, the bacterial deaths or the long term with the cancers. We're losing too many good people here. Okay. So again, I guess I'm going to city council on Monday. Mickey? Yep. It'll be after a work day and Mondays are always chaotic for me. So think about what you're going to say before you say it, but also bring your facts because that's been me. I bring the receipts. I bring the links. I bring the science. I don't want to hear about so-and-so, this elected official told me this. Sure. Where's their receipts? Where's their facts? Where's the reporting that shows this? Because I can show you all the opposite. And also that's why we're not going away. And please don't let me get, shot. I got stuff to do, please. And I would like to have a day where I could take a bath and not worry about my, parts being, acided off or bacteria. So again, still here after all this time, but we're here because Flint's amazing. Flint residents are incredible. We're strong, and we've set an example for all these other communities that are struggling to replicate our fight and our will. But we're teaching them, we're hopefully leading by example. And as this lead service line program rolls out with Biden's infrastructure bill, it needs to be done right, or it's going to cause more harm than good. Also, we got to start talking about the lead and copper rule. The revision is coming up on the federal level in a couple of months. So we're going to need to get people together and we'll talk more about that. And we'll bring Naira in on organizing for that because we don't want the laws to change that cause more harm than good. Okay. So again, talking about those ordinances about throwing people in jail if they don't consent to have their service line replaced. Well, you said you were going to shut my water off if I didn't replace my meter. Why don't you just do the same with my service line? You got to shut it off to do the work anyway. But I don't want any of that because nobody should have their water shut off either. Oh, and also we need to also talk about the affordability and the assistance programs, the LIWAP so we have a lot to talk about continually. So we'll keep doing these shows if that's okay with all y'all and Mickey putting up with me. Always coming in here chaotic late because life and there's always something going on. But do not, if you see something, say something. That's for this. Okay. If you see somebody's yard that's still a torn up mess, talk to them. If you see somebody if you hear somebody that's like, I don't know what my service line material is, nobody told me, I don't know if it's done, reach out to the attorneys. Again, and I shared this on my page and it's public and it's got the emails on it and I'll put it in the comments. Please make sure you take a picture of your consent form that you've consented 30,000 times, but it's cityoflint.com/get lead out, or you can just search City of Flint, get the lead out consent form, and it should take you to that page. And you can print it off, you can fill it out online, or you can just call 810-410-1133. But please have somebody record you making that call. And email get the lead out, all one word, at cityofflint.com, but copy that email or send that email also to Flint Pipe Removal, all one word, at gmail.com. And that way, that's the NRDC collecting that. And you could also go to Flint Rising's Facebook page and look at the survey we're asking people to complete. And we'll accept pictures, all that stuff, because we need to make sure that nobody's left behind. Nobody. There should be no lead left. As for service lines, we still got to deal with distribution mains. But as long as we stick together, we can force change. As long as we don't give up, and as long as we know that this is what's right, we're going to continue to make change. And yes, sometimes it's slow, and sometimes it's extremely infuriating. And sometimes I want to punch somebody a lot, but I don't, because, I don't look good in orange and I got food allergies. I can't be going to jail. And I'm not going to go to jail for these people that are not doing their job. Come on. So let's make them do their job. Let's say, hey, Flint deserves better. Flint is amazing. It's your job. You work for us, city council person, state reps, state senators, mayor, city administration. So do your job and do it right. No halfway. Because if I did this kind of work at my job, I'd be fired. Do the job, do it right, do it all the way, and stop lying. Stop trying to tell people, oh, it's fine. Stop putting these little articles out. I mean, that's fine. We're just going to, take what you said. You lied again. Stop it. Stop lulling your people that you're supposed to be protecting and representing into a false sense of security. Stop telling people it's fine because some of the pipes are out. Stop telling people it's fine because it's the most monitored. Again, a semi-truck can roll over on the freeway and 100 people can stare at it and be like, this is the most monitored semi-truck explosion. Does that save the driver? Does that fix the wreck? No. Staring at something and testing it and cheating on the testing also, or not doing it right, so we had to take it back to court, it does not make the water safe. It literally means nothing. And also, our lawsuit forced you to do that. So, just like, again, get your pipes replaced, please, please, please. And especially until 1 year after the last service line is replaced, junk is still going to be settled. It's going to be stirred up. So use your filters, change your cartridges, aerate it, clean your aerators, use bottled water. Take care of your body because you're important. You matter. You're important. The politicians saying that you're not. And it's our job to make them do their job. So again, I'm Melissa Mays, founder of What Are You Fighting For, operations manager at Flint Rising, and also social worker in mental health, Flint Mother. Thank you all for listening on a Saturday. Please share and please take care of one another because we're all in this together. See you next week.